So this is the part where you join me building the loco that was in the box. Now this was the Bobo electric loco that was passed on to me from my father, and I said that I was going to unleash this and build this and bring this to life. It was a metal kit, and I'd like to say thank you to you guys for your comments that put the fear of God in me about building with any metal kits, and said good luck. Thanks very much. After unwrapping everything and laying everything out meticulously in its correct order, I've discovered it's more white metal than it is brass, which is a good thing. The only downside is obviously I've got to solder the white metal together, and I've got to use a low point solder to actually bring the joints, which can damage the side of the model. So that is something that I was very considerate about, and something that really concerned me. By reading through and having a little bit of research just online, a lot of forums suggested that using a resin glue was a good option for building any white metal kits, especially nowadays, because a lot of modern resins are really good for that kind of thing. So I've opted for the resin to build this kit, and I did find it was actually a breeze to do it with, because you can fit the parts together and you can sort of play about to get them, and you get a little bit more drying time as opposed to a solder, and that's on that joint, whether it's in or out or tiny some discrepancy, and then you've got to reheat it, and then you've got the fear of actually breaking the actual detailing on the model. So soldering is out. The only soldering I've done is actually to wire up the motor, which I shall show you. So I've actually sped on. I'm not going to do a time lapse of where I am now. I'm actually going to show you some bits where I've unpacked it and I've built some of the body, and then I'm going to show you how I've sort of just quickly show you how I sprayed it, and then bringing the detail together. So the time has finally come to open up the box and to see what we have inside. Now, under close inspection, I need to look at all the castings and make sure that they are flush and they fit together as intended, and there is no protrusions. With the instructions, I also need to go through making sure I have all the right components available to complete the entire build. Nothing worse than getting to the end and finding I'm something missing. So from opening all the instructions and checking everything's there, I've actually sped on and made the body. I just got this one panel on the side to add. I'm just checking it actually fits to the chassis. And from this point onwards, I'm actually taking the wheel assembly, all the bogies, and adding all the gearing and all the motors, all that kind of thing, which takes a little while and something I really wanted to take time to get right. If you get the motor around the wrong way, it will stop it from working. And then this is just the case where I'm actually adding the wires and feeding all the power pickups to the wheels through to the bogie. So I've got it all assembled, all done. Got the motor all wired up, that all works. It's time to actually give it a spray. So I'm going to let the chassis dry a little bit more, and then it's the time to give it a good old spraying over. So yes. So from the pictures, if you saw, I had the white metal cast body that I actually constructed, and this is now all glued with a resin. I found the resin works really well and it really bonds hard to the white metal. Being quite an old kit, and the instructions, it says to use solder or resin glues, and I found the resin glue actually really works well, and that's what I've opted for in this process. And you can see how quick I've actually built this, and it's quite sturdy in itself, and if there's any problems I can manipulate the two parts apart and then sort of go back to where I started. So I thought this was a good process for me. There is a little few errors there. I've got some, this is like glue, some of the casting didn't fit. Again, I will touch these up with a filler, and I've done a little bit more on this side. I've done this one and made it a little bit smoother. I just need to do this end now. Being white cast metal, not all of it fits correctly. You've got to remember this is quite an old casting, so it's just getting it together was quite a challenge, but I think it's coming together quite well. So I've got a couple little bits to fill in and do, and that's what I'll add some car filler and add some putty in there. That's what I'll carry on with. Try and clean up some of the areas there. That is actually in the casting itself, so I really have to be careful what I'm doing. I don't want to ruin the definition, but all in all, for what it is, if I get that kind of result that I've got there, I'll be happy with it. Now this has had 3 coats of primer already, inside and out, and so I've got to keep building up, and I keep letting it dry. Otherwise, as soon as you touch it with a bit of sandpaper or something, it'll actually take it straight back to the body underneath because it's so soft. So I'm trying to maintain as much as I can. I probably will go with the detail as is. I will just try and fill in a little bit more there. That's what I would like to achieve. And then obviously got the hand railings and all the rest of paint to go on. I've just got, you can see there's actually a little bit of glue, and you can see how easy that takes that top layer off. So even though that's had 3 coats, so, and then it'll be all sealed in anyway. So that's the body. A lot more work to do to that. I didn't actually film lots of the building together because that's only 1 panel, 2, 3, 4, so that's 5 elements, and then the bit in the middle. So literally was a glue it, hold it, which would have taken 10 seconds on film. So wasn't any point actually showing that. That's why I've showed some pictures. Again, with a chassis, that was a case of I had to sort of glue these bits in and make sure that they were in the right positions. So it was all planning really, more than filming. And again, I had to get the buffers in the right place. So it was all that kind of thing. So that's where we are. I'm going to carry on doing a bit more, and we'll see what it comes up to next. So you can see I've done a lot of the grey primer, and I've done all that kind of thing. I use a lot of car sprays for this, and I've done a Halford's oxide over the whole body because I'm using a red, and you know that's what it suggests if you're using a darker colour, to use a red primer. Now, being metal, I've used these metal primers and they work really well. The only downside is because the white metal is a very soft metal, any scratches at this point when you're spraying, it actually shows back to the metal, so you've really got to be careful when you're doing any paint work. So I've done that, ready to put a clear varnish on top, but I'm just going to do the stickers, all that kind of thing. So that's the next process after I've sprayed it. Now for spraying, I've opted for a Volkswagen Gambia red. By reading a lot of forums, this was the most suggested, and I thought I'd go for this. I did do a little research on the colours of London Underground, and I have heard that they didn't actually have a paint scheme. It was actually whatever colour dark red they had, and whatever it matched to, that was the colour. And I think that's pretty generic in most railways, if I'm honest with you. So that's what I've opted for. Is they're closest, and I think it, with them 2 colours, it'll pretty much pop the loco body out. So I'm going to carry on and see how this goes, and then we'll look at our final result and hopefully the end product of our loco. So the loco's all sprayed in primer, and we've added the top coat, the burgundy colour, we've added the glazing, and as you can see I'm just adding some decals actually to the body with decal fix, and also the numbers I'll be adding them on as well, as you can see here. And all that's left for me to do now is to actually add all the little grab rails around the whole of the loco, which are very small, very tedious, but as you can see I'll take a very steady hand and a pair of pliers and do the task that needs doing. And from this point onwards it's a case of reassembling, making sure everything's back together, and then we'll do a final sort of spray over in a matte sealant varnish, and then we'll have a look how she performs on a piece of test track. So after about a week and a half I've actually finally finished the loco, and as you can see she's all done. And now I've opted to stick with the brass rails, the handrails. Simple reason is I'm not very good at lining locos, that kind of thing. It's something I've not worked out. I could have bought some transfers, some lining. That's something I might do, but I actually felt like the brass handrails actually sort of set that kind of lining effect, and I've actually tried to make this one a little bit different than everything that's out there, because this model has been released, and I thought I would stick with the brass handrails to make this completely unique. So if it's seen again you'll know that this is certainly a different loco than some of the ones that are pre-made on the market. So I've deliberately made it different. I've used all the components that are in the kit. There was some stickers missing. You know, this kit was designed a good few years ago, so I had to sort of use what I had. There is a number 5 missing from the front there and the back, but I've put them in the correct position on the side, and I've got the London Underground as you can see there. And as I say, I've maintained all the handrails. I'm not going to pick the loco up because I don't want to handle it. I just want to keep it finger mark free, and it's when things happen when you start manhandling it. But I'm really excited, really happy the way it's come out. It's gone beyond my beliefs of building something like this, so I'm very happy. So that is our Bobo electric loco, a nice little London Underground tribute, and it will sit on the layout and be good, good for some shots and things like that. So it's going to be an iconic part of my layout. If I am going to leave it on the layout, I will put a decoder on so it won't interfere with the rest of the electrics. So that's something I will have to do. But at the moment, power's off, and she sits there quite nicely. All I need to do now is just do a little test run on a bit of track, quite aptly timed, and we'll see how she performs. Okay, so let's do a little test run. I stuck her on a piece of test track. It's time to fire up, see how she operates. So far so good. I've done a few dry running tests, and she operated quite nicely on some wheels. Track is always the big test. And she's running quite nicely on there. A little bit noisy, but for an engine of its age, I wouldn't expect too much, to be honest. But it'd be nice to see it running around the layout. But all in all, she's running really well. So there we go. Let's get some shots around the layout. So there you go, that concludes this building of a loco a great tribute and a great memory for me, and it wasn't as hard as I thought. It's only taken me about a week and a half, if I'm to be honest with you. Probably all in all, only probably about 48 50 hours, I would say, all in all. But obviously it's the drying time and obviously letting it all settle and the glues to dry, so that's really what sort of slows you down. But other than that, it's been a real breeze to build, and I've thoroughly enjoyed building that, and it's done, all finished. All I have to do now, stick it up there out of the way, get a nice little glass case to go over the top of it. So that's my next mission, to get a little box to put over it. So unfortunately that is the end of this. Hope you enjoyed this crazy little loco build of my London Underground Bobo, and we'll be back with another project very soon. Till next time, take care, and as we always say, happy modelling. Cheerio guys.